Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is Chad here with BetHub.com. We are breaking down week number 5 of the NFL campaign with my top 3 selections: gold, silver, and bronze precious metal styles. Last week, we had a very successful 2-1 record, helping improve the overall season record to 7-5. Finally getting off the schneid with the gold pick, cashing in with the Patriots in that massive second half outburst offensively. There's no time to look back on the past. All we have is moving forward in the future here, and we'll continue to grow on that and increase the units won here at BetHub.com. So let's start off with the gold pick here, and I absolutely love a road underdog in the San Diego Chargers playing the Saints here in primetime Sunday night football. And for the life of me, I don't understand how the New Orleans Saints are favored by more than a field goal here in this spot. As a matter of fact, this marks the first time since the 1970s that a team that is 0-4 playing a winning record team at this point in the year is favored. And there's reason for that, because most of the time, these numbers don't become available because these situations are just so rare. The bottom line here is the public perception is the New Orleans Saints are still a team that has the offensive moxie. They're playing in the Louisiana Superdome. San Diego's beaten nobody. They seem to always choke and can't rise up to the occasion in these big spots here. And after all, the Saints are going to be desperate. They need to win this game at home. Haven't they been desperate the last 4 weeks? Look at the results. Loss, 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 and loss. And the only time they covered was when they were the more than a touchdown dog against Green Bay last week. Well, you know what? They're favored once again at home. Their vaunted home field advantage. I learned my lesson in week 1 against Washington. Washington hasn't done anything special this year. Then they take on the putrid Kansas City Chiefs and blow that lead at home. There's no home field advantage like there was last year for the Saints team. They're simply not that good. They're not being able to stay on the same page here with the coaching staff, with Sean Payton gone, with the new defensive coordinator Spagnuolo in charge. They haven't got those schematics down pat, and I just don't see why they're worthy of receiving this large of a number here as a home favorite. And with San Diego, sure, they're not great. I'll be the first to admit that. I don't think they're a true Super Bowl contender despite their record, but they're still going to be a winning football team this year. And Phillip Rivers should have no problem carving apart that atrocious defense. Ryan Matthews has been back for a couple of weeks now. And the big difference here is San Diego has a far superior defense. It's not even a question right now. New Orleans has the worst defense in the NFL, and San Diego's in the top 5 in most of the major statistical categories, and with good reason. So, I think here that, okay, maybe there's a chance New Orleans will win this game, but it ain't going to be coming by any margin. And even if they're up by 8, 9, 10 points, that back door is more than wide open with an arm of Phillip Rivers and a defense of the New Orleans Saints. So we'll take the Chargers with our gold selection. Now we'll move on to our silver selection, to a team that has been so good to me the last number of weeks. That is the Cincinnati Bengals. I understand why some of the money has come in on the Miami Dolphins to this point, but I do not agree with it. Sure, Miami has been a better team on the road over the last few years than they have been at home, and that's caused some people to think, they've only lost in overtime by a field goal the last couple of games. They don't have much of a home field advantage. That's why there's maybe a little bit more value with them on the road. There's less pressure. But you know what? This number is getting short enough here to only have to lay just over a field goal for a vastly talented team here in the Cincinnati Bengals on their home field. And every time you think they're due for a letdown spot, like last week in Jacksonville on the road back-to-back weeks, they came through with flying colors. And one of the knocks on this team here is their defense, especially in the secondary with all the injuries. Well, you know what? Just like Jacksonville last week, Miami's not the type of team to expose them. And I know Tannehill threw all over Arizona's defense last week, which is better than Cincinnati's, but that's a different story there. I think Arizona really got caught off guard, maybe took them lightly and were a little high on their horse after their 3-0 record. And seeing what Miami's done, push teams to the overtime last few weeks, I think almost creates Cincinnati to not take them lightly and come out guns a-blazing with that offense. I've already talked multiple times about how much I love Dalton throwing the ball to A.J. Green, one of the best receivers in the league. We see what Jermaine Gresham's able to do as a number 2 guy. This Hawkins kid is turning out to be a pretty good third option. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis can, keep things in check with the running game. And I just believe that they have a far superior offense to Miami, which if they get up by a couple of scores, like we've seen with Jacksonville and even Washington to a lesser extent, makes it very difficult for a team with a worse offense to come back in this spot. I think Miami runs out of steam a little bit here. I think after having lost back-to-back weeks in overtime with a younger team, it's a little bit deflating. Maybe they don't quite handle it as well the third time here. And I just look for Cincinnati to pull away here with their better offense because they're the far superior team. And a lot of times that Miami's covered in these spots here, they've been 6 and 7 point dogs on the road. It's completely different when this number is shorter here. Take the better team on their home field. And when you look at Cincinnati overall, even dating back to last year, they do a great job of beating the teams they're supposed to. They went 8-0 straight up and 7-1 ATS last year against non-playoff and losing teams. The same trend has continued through this year, and I expect that to remain the same. We move on to my bronze selection, and I will be taking the Pittsburgh Steelers here, laying around a field goal just over that against Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't necessarily like this selection here because there's any sort of value on Pittsburgh. Absolutely not. I look at this as more of a situational play on my behalf. First of all, the Pittsburgh Steelers are coming off a loss and a bye, which bodes very well for a well-coached team of Mike Tomlin. In his career, coming off of a loss, they are 16-9 ATS off a bye. Something like that. It's either one of those two numbers combined. The bottom line here is they got embarrassed defensively against Oakland last game. And anytime you give them an extra week or so to get things shored up, I can assure you that they will be much better on the defensive side of the football. We don't know the exact health of James Harrison and Troy Polamalu, but having them on the field is better than not. I think having an extra week or so to have them integrated into the defensive mix will help them out substantially. And when you look at Philadelphia and the turnover issues they've had, sure, they didn't have them against New York last week, but we still see the ineptness in the red zone, which I could see being an issue here against Pittsburgh, who will maybe force them into some bad plays down there, settling for a lot of field goals. So I think Pittsburgh definitely comes to play off a loss here. We saw how angry they were after losing week 1 on the road. They're a completely different team on the road versus at home. And same thing can be said for Philadelphia. I mean, they barely squeaked by in a lot of their wins. And I know that some people might think there's value with their talent being a dog here in this spot. But the 2 times they've risen to the occasion of being on their home field against good teams, not on the road. They barely beat Cleveland on the road. They got absolutely hammered by Arizona in a similar spot in week number 3. And I think a lot of that has to do with the emotional high of coming off that divisional win, getting up for that game against New York, same sort of thing against Baltimore in week 2, and having to go on the road to a hostile environment here with Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh has a substantial edge actually in the throwing and receiving game because I think Roethlisberger is better than Vic, and I'll take Mike Wallace and Antonio Brown over Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin right now. I think that when you look at some of the confusion that's still happening in that Philadelphia secondary, the speed of Pittsburgh should be able to bust open a few big plays. Rashard Mendenhall is also expected to come back this week, which should help balance things out with the running game. I think when you look at the style of defenses, the attacking, the blitzing, the getting after the quarterback element of things, Roethlisberger is more of a tank. He's harder to take down, and I think Pittsburgh can really put a licking here on Vic. So give me the Pittsburgh Steelers as my bronze selection. Wrapping it all up, gold pick San Diego, silver pick Cincinnati, bronze pick Pittsburgh Steelers. Make sure to check back next week for more winning selections. And guys, don't forget, you got to get a part of the action here. Come and bet against my picks if you don't agree with me, or go and bet somebody else with them at bethub.com. You can check out the link below. Start up your own account today. You can bet me, you can bet your friend, you can bet whoever you want. Just throw it out there. Someone will take your action. It's a ton of fun. Enjoy the games.